Accenture's take on the state of HR tech. That's next on the RecTech podcast.
Welcome to RecTech, the podcast where recruiting and technology intersect. Each month, you'll hear from vendors shaping the recruiting world, along with recruiters who'll tell you how they use technology to hire talent. Now, here's your host, the mad scientist of online recruiting, Chris Russell.
This is RecTech, the only podcast that helps employers and recruiters connect with more candidates through technology-inspired conversations. Our mission is to teach you about the tools and tactics for finding talent online. Today's show is a vendor edition. The RecTech podcast is sponsored by our friends at WorkHere, the hyperlocal candidate delivery system. WorkHere targets candidates with GPS precision, target by geofence, skills, education, and even work history. They help you engage passive and active candidates via mobile apps, web, and social, and a human chat team responds quickly, answers their questions, vets them, and even helps them sell them on your brand and opportunity. Then we'll send them right to you via SMS, email, or even straight to your ATS. Head over to workhere.com and tell them you heard it on RecTech. All right, on to the show. According to the research conducted by Accenture earlier this year, enterprises are primed to shift HR out from the back office to deliver strategic value to their businesses. The problem is making that shift. HR departments lack the necessary AI tools, analytics, and digital skills related to do strategic HR. Here to talk about addressing this challenge and how to overcome it is Jill Goldstein, Talent and HR Business Process Service Lead at Accenture, and her colleague, Allan Racey, Global Talent and HR Capability Lead. Jill and Allan, welcome to RecTech.
Thanks, Chris.
So start out by telling
Thanks so
us,
much.
start by telling us what is Accenture Operations and how do you guys help HR pros out there?
Yeah, of course. Well, within Accenture Operations, we work with clients as a part of their shared services or GBS organizations to deliver enterprise functions. So specifically to talent and HR, we provide end-to-end business process services from talent acquisition to talent development and core HR and employee services. We provide service delivery support to our clients, as I mentioned, as a part of a full service delivery model.
So do you embed your HR pros at companies and things like that?
We do. We absolutely do.
Gotcha. How do you guys, just to kind of follow up on that, how do you guys, do you leverage your clients' technology as far as, the ATS and other kinds of recruiting software?
Oh, absolutely. We've typically found that our clients have invested a fair amount of money in a technology suite that makes sense for them and is fit for purpose. Mm-hmm. So we prefer to come in and then work with clients on an optimal configuration. And then we have COEs within our delivery centers that work with clients to sweat that asset as much as possible. We bring point solutions where it makes sense.
Yeah. Do you guys do a lot of testing with other different point solutions out there? I'm curious what's on your radar for as we go into 2019 as far as new technology out there.
Yeah, well, I have to say this is where Allan spends a lot of his time. It is tough to keep up with the pace of new service and technology providers entering the market and understanding which are great in concept and which are truly adding value to our clients as a part of the service delivery model. Mm-hmm. As we go into 2019, we're really working to make sure that artificial intelligence is becoming a real value lever for our clients, especially as we think about employee experience and engaging them in a tier 0, tier 1 service delivery model, as well as leveraging our clients' cloud HCMs to make sure that they're really taking full advantage of analytics.
Allan, how much do you do around, tell me more about your research, and I'm curious how you guys look at the the overall candidate experience online today, because that's kind of a big theme among recruiters and TA pros.
It definitely is, and you hit it there, Chris, in that we really try to solve the business outcomes that our clients are looking for, and do that with a high regard for the candidate and the employee experience, of course. And so, we often say that we're not looking at technology to, as a hammer looking for a nail. There's certainly a ton of different technology options out there in the marketplace, and we continue to make investments internally as well. So we very selectively are looking at, ways to deploy a wide range of tools, whether it's automation, AI, and analytics, to solve per point challenges in the process and the overall candidate experience. So, we're looking at use of tools across the spectrum, from, helping recruiters to source more effectively using AI, interview scheduling capabilities, analytics to determine the characteristics of hires that will stay longer and perform better, and again, drive better workforce performance.
All right, good stuff. Let's talk about the report for a bit. It's called Igniting HR for Strategic Business Partnerships. And let me just read a quote from there to kind of get us started. It says, although gaps remain between the expectations of the business and HR's contribution, HR is clearly on a transformation journey. It is shifting focus from enabling back office efficiency and effectiveness to becoming a strategic business partner. So I guess, Joe, what do you mean by strategic, and how is this now different from what HR has done in the past?
So as I think about HR being strategic, what I have in mind is a mental model where HR is informing and influencing the business, its strategy, its priorities and plans, specifically related into the way that they're using their workforce and maximizing their investment in skills and capabilities. And so as I think about HR being strategic, that's the paradigm shift that I've seen. Historically, organizations have really, I think, been forced to focus much more on the back office, making sure that the lights were on and the processes were being done accurately and timely. But because of some recent investment that we've seen HR receive, it's had the opportunity to point more to the business and be strategic.
Yeah. Now, there are challenges to becoming more strategic within HR, namely, underutilized departments or underfunded departments, leadership itself just not seeing it more as a cost center versus strategic stuff. So just talk about the challenges of that, if you could.
Sure. So there are a few things that come to mind. The first is that the business has to continue to include HR in some of those longer term discussions. Without visibility to understanding where the business is going and the related workforce needs, HR tends to have an underappreciation for the workforce skills needed around digital capabilities, as well as the role of automation and AI in the broader business. So as they then go ahead internally and develop their workforce forecast, their workforce plans, and put together a priority for HR for the upcoming fiscal year, they really lack full visibility and they continue to think short term.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind is that we as HR professionals have, I think, been doing a lot of work understanding the dynamic nature in the market with all the new service and technology providers. We've been working on automating the back office as much as we can, but we've really shown, I think, as a group, of course there are exceptions, we've had little evidence to the business that we are actually changing. So unfortunately, based on the research finding, there's a perception that HR is static. And so that may be much more of an internal marketing effort and campaign than it is reality, but that perception can and will stand in our way in achieving true strategic partnership. Yeah. And the third is around data. Allan and I go in and we talk to clients fairly regularly about their workforce and HR strategies, and we hear a lot around people, process, and technology in various forms based on the discussion. But we almost never talk about data, which I view as the currency of everything working together. So as we think about our aspirations and what we want to achieve as HR professionals, I do think we need to take some time and understand that none of it is achievable without using data in a very thoughtful way and working with the end in mind. So if we want a portfolio of analytics, if we want to use machine learning, if we want to infuse insights into a manager dashboard, it all starts with the data.
Yeah. I was speaking with HR consultant on last week's show. We were talking about a lot about the future of HR and how it's becoming much more digital. And I was telling her that I really think we need a new role at HR, like some kind of the CIO of HR, or a CTO of HR technology, because it's just something that's I think missing right now in many HR departments out there. That someone has that foresight around how to use technology properly and get the data out of there. But tell me more about what you guys think about, recruiting or reskilling existing talent within these departments itself.
I think that's a great point. I mentioned that one of the things that we do is we work with clients to support their HR transformation. And so often we're focused on the shared services or GBS organization, and we don't spend as much time talking about reskilling and enabling the remaining professionals that more likely than not are focused on the talent agenda.
Yeah.
And so as we've been working with clients around finding, securing, retaining, and upskilling talent, there really does continue, I think, to be a professional need to be agile. I don't know, as I think about it, and I'll ask Allan to chime in here, that any client has really figured it out. It really is very specific to the client, their industry, their workforce segment, their business plan. But I do think many of our clients have recognized the fact that the lines between what we would call talent acquisition and talent development are blurring. That because of hot skills, you can't always assume that just because you have demand, that there's going to be supply available in the local or global market. So there may be a need to be more creative, to understand what the transferable skill set is, and then put together a talent development plan to get people to where you need. Allan, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I mean, the only, Chris, you mentioned this role of this, talent sort of, chief technology officer or what have you.
Yeah.
I think as we think about the evolution of this space, there's going to be a whole range of new types of skills that are needed, and perhaps even new roles. I mean, roles like, the candidate experience lead or the, talent analytics lead. There's a whole bunch of new skills that are going to be required to take advantage of both the digital technologies, the increased focus on, the candidate and the employee experience and really solving for that, as well as, driving better business outcomes, which is, what the research is all about. So I think you're exactly right. There's going to be a whole range of new roles and capabilities that are needed, and that's one of the big challenges in front of HR, who've traditionally spent their internal training budget on, maybe core HR or recruiting skills. There's a whole new set of training that needs to be, received and delivered to these populations in order to help them upskill into this new world we're all grappling with.
Yeah, definitely. How do you guys see AI and analytics, benefiting those people? I mean, I think overall, AI is definitely making things more efficient for departments overall. I'm curious how you see that and analytics as well.
Yeah, so the first thing that I would say, and Allan and I talk about this pretty frequently, is there is no absolute. I think when AI first and analytics first came out, we thought it was people or these digital assets, right? I think as we have worked with clients and actually kind of tested on ourselves a little bit, we've realized that the more likely scenario is human plus machine, right? It's people plus technology. So to your point, as we've been deploying analytics AI, we first started with our own organization. How do we make sure that these assets that we're deploying result in the business outcome that we're representing to our clients? Let's make sure that we understand how we can optimize the machine and the machine can optimize us to deliver the outcome. And so what we've been doing over the last several years is infusing our service delivery model with artificial intelligence and analytics so that now when we're talking to clients about it, we have an informed point of view. And what we've found as we've spoken to organizations is that even though there's a lot of comfort around using AI and analytics in the service delivery organization, there is hesitancy at some level to use AI unaided.
What are you seeing now as far as the different responsibilities and our processes that are being automated and also ones that should be automated if they're not already?
And, as we sort of think about it, there's two broad sets of processes that, exist. There's transaction-based processes that are very rules-based, like, in the talent acquisition space, interview scheduling in many cases. some components of onboarding and so forth. All of those are very ripe for automation. And I think in the marketplace, there's lots of examples of tools and capabilities that exist to support that. For the more brain-based activities, more nuanced, activities like, some of the aspects of selling a candidate on a job offer or managing employment branding campaign. Those are truly human activities. And while there's digital tools and capabilities that can enable those to be performed more intelligently or effectively, they're still sort of fundamentally human in nature. Mm-hmm. Although we're obviously seeing a upward creep of AI tools for other activities that have been traditionally very human, like candidate sourcing and reviewing job descriptions and so forth. So I think there's a continuum that continues to change, and I think that's one of the challenges, to stay on top of those changes. See what's going to have the most impact to enable, again, these outcomes and this experience that candidates and hiring managers and recruiters even are having.
Yeah. Allan, have you done any work with chatbots yet with any of your clients? I'm curious. That's an area of HR tech that's gotten some, it's kind of hot now. What's happening with chatbots?
Yeah,
with you guys?
Yeah, we definitely have had some experience with chatbots, and as you know, there's a wide range of capabilities of some of these, AI advisors that exist on the marketplace. We're finding, and I think the degree to which these chatbots are embraced and utilized and are seen as being effective does depend to some degree on the candidate profile. So what workforce segment is the employer targeting in the marketplace? Who's more likely to get engaged with these chatbots and ask some basic questions, maybe undertake some screening and so forth. So we are having, some success, perhaps more so with junior level profiles, graduate type hires, high volume hires and so forth. The more, niche type profiles, the purple squirrels out there, I think to a lower degree, just because of the needs of that particular segment of the workforce.
So what tips do you guys have for, implementing a strategic HR, initiative here? What do you tell TA pros and company executives about this?
I think that most HR professionals intuitively understand how to be successful within their own organization. And for the most part, I admire those CHROs and CPOs as they go through the journey. I would say from the outside in, it really is, I think, about making sure that you truly understand the business that your organization is in, how it makes money, how it uses people and skills, and then how you, as a business professional first, HR professional second, can really use the tools and capabilities at your disposal to achieve that business objective. And it may, and often does, require HR to look internally and make sure that we as professionals have the skills that we need, that the policies and the programs enable the changing dynamic of the workforce and the expectations and needs of the business, and then operationalize against it with intestinal rigor.
Yeah, I think I think that's right on, Jill. From my perspective, I just add that, HR and I guess talent acquisition has historically been very good at HR and talent acquisition. And I think the challenge now in front of the professionals that work in this space is to become very good at the business that they're in, really understanding to a very high degree of what drives their business, what generates value for the business's customers, and how can they best influence the outcomes that the business really needs. So, from my perspective, that's sort of the next level of, generation of thinking and perspective that leaders in talent acquisition and HR need to take is really take on that business lens.
All right, well, let's do a quick reset, listeners. We're talking with Joe Goldstein and Allan Racey from Accenture. And let me just mention my second sponsor today, which is Emissary. Emissary.ai, the text recruiting platform. They have a number of ways to embed text into your recruiting. One of those is custom shortcodes. So you can't talk to everyone, right? So you can use shortcodes to provide instant mobile access to your job listings, recruitment branding materials, Q&A, or something to capture more leads at career events or in-store perhaps. Your physical presence can be your most important recruiting asset. So use shortcodes to promote jobs in a retail setting, encourage referrals at a work site, or even to bolster your employer brand among the general public. Go over to emissary.ai for more information, and be sure to tell them you heard it on RecTech. Just a few more questions for you guys. So which is the biggest enabler of strategic HR? Is it talent or technology?
I think hands down, the answer is talent. And that was one of the key findings of the research, was that as important as technology is, it is only an tool or an enabler. It's really the people that bring it to life. It's the people that design, understand the need for it, design the solution, and then leverage technology in an appropriate way. They're also there to work with employees, managers, candidates, whomever you support within HR in those key moments that matter. Those key parts of the journey where, regardless of what generation you are, you would feel better talking to a person because it's such a sensitive, highly emotive situation. And so I believe that it's really the talent that is the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, since if it is talent, then how are they going to find these people? Because it's such a tight market now. HR is not traditionally, digital savvy, as most of us know. It sounds like they're basically going to have to outsource a lot of this stuff because there's just not enough people to go around, I think.
Well, I certainly hope that's an option they consider. I would say that I think what I'm seeing HR being very creative. And so what they're doing is they're really looking for a set of soft and hard skills that are required to do a job. And then they're giving those candidates who may not be an exact fit the opportunity to grow and develop. So, for example, many organizations are looking to analytics experts who started in the customer space for marketing to move over to HR because so many of those skills and experiences are transferable. So I am seeing HR being very creative in the way that they're recruiting, acquiring, and developing. That said, not every organization has the critical mass and the economies of scale and the access to investment and assets as an outsourced provider like Accenture would have. So as you think about the future of HR, you should definitely consider an outsourced provider like Accenture to be part of your partnership ecosystem, because we can and do definitely accelerate our clients' time to value in supporting their organization and the business.
Do you guys have a tip or anything you could tell, sort of let's say a 1,000-person company with an HR department of, 4 or 5 people who isn't that, can't afford to hire an Accenture. What's one thing you would tell them to do today to be more customer focused or just more strategic HR focused overall?
I would say, the other thing to focus on is to, take a look at the data that you have. Even if it's in a small organization, there's going to be data. And to the extent that you can, find time to, or an asset perhaps that can help you make sense of that data. I think when you're enabled with the data, you can go back in and provide some interesting insights back into the business, even for a small organization. So, don't forget about the data. Try to build some analytics skills. Use some tools that are available out there in the marketplace to the extent you can build a business case for that. And, try to arm yourself with data when you're engaging with the business.
Appreciate that. Do you guys have any other interesting reports coming out in the new year? What else do you guys put out as far as research like this?
Well, so we are continuing on our research agenda. There will be some journeys published early after the beginning of the year. I will tell you, I would encourage you to go on to Accenture.com. Allan and I are pretty frequent in publishing blogs because we have a bunch of opinions that we like to share with people. So we'd encourage you to follow us on Accenture.com, LinkedIn, or Twitter.
Awesome. As we wrap this up, Jill and Allan, let's predict the future here. So from each of you, how long do you think it will take before, a significant number of companies really start to employ this HR stuff strategically?
I'd say we're going to be having a very different conversation in about 5 years as a lot of clients and organizations who are on this HR transformation start to feel the benefit of the investment that they've made. I think we're going to stop having this conversation in about 7 to 10. For so long, I've heard my peers talk about having a seat at the table, being able to have that strategic conversation. I think the door is open. We just have to make sure that we're prepared to walk through it and be the partner that the business is expecting us to be.
No, I would agree. I do think it's a journey, and I think we are seeing organizations, HR professionals, really accepting the challenge to move towards being more strategic. I think they have to because of the swirling nature of the world around us, workforce of the future, new digital tools. There's just a need to operate more with more agility and with more intelligence. And so I think, there are definitely steps being made within organizations to be more strategic, but I think it is going to take some time to get there and probably some help from some partners.
It's going to be an interesting next few years. And, I keep saying that it seems like there's an HR tech bubble out there. There's so much stuff being thrown at the HR departments these days. It's like, how can they make sense of it all? Yeah. So we need like a moratorium on like HR tech for like a year or two, if I had my druthers. But I digress. Well, Jill and Allan, I appreciate you guys joining me today. We mentioned Accenture.com for more of your blogs and stuff. Anything else you want to add to that in terms of where to go find you guys?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. As I mentioned, right, you can follow me on Accenture.com at the blog series that I publish. I'm also available on LinkedIn, Jill K. Goldstein, as well as Twitter, Jill K. Goldstein.
Allan, Racey is available on Twitter. You can see me on Accenture.com as well, and I'm on LinkedIn. My handle is Racey, Racey.
All right, well, we'll link to you guys in the show notes. Appreciate your time today. And that's going to do for this edition of the RecTech podcast. Thanks again to our sponsors, Emissary and Work Here. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you're an iTunes subscriber, be sure to leave a review so I can thank you on air. Thanks for listening, everyone. And remember, always be recruiting.
Another episode of RecTech is in the books. Follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Russell or visit rectechmedia.com, where you can find the audio and links for this show on our blog. RecTech Media helps both HR tech firms and employers to get more clients or candidates through our consulting practice and online tools. So be sure to check out our sites like recruiting headlines, job fairing, and more to stay up to date on what's happening in recruiting. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of RecTech, the Recruiting Technology Podcast.